Hey guys, so today we're going to be starting day 6 of ACE the Algebra EOC, and we're going to be looking at a couple of different topics today. The first one is going to be solving for y. So as long as you can solve for y, you can always plug it into your calculator, but it has to be in that slope-intercept form. So most of the time, equations are going to come in standard form, which is ax plus by equals c, and a, b, and c will always be numbers. There's also slope-intercept form, which is what we want. Again, this is what we want, which is y equals mx plus b. And so we're going to be following two steps for solving this equation. The first one is we have to add or subtract our x. So if I look at question number 1, 2x plus 3y equals 6, I need to subtract 2x from both sides first. So when I do that, we're left with 3y equals negative 2x plus 6. And I'm putting the 2x in front because that's the correct order. You don't have to, but it's just the easiest way to identify your slope and y-intercept that way. So step two in a nutshell is that we have to divide by whatever is in front of y. So divide y. And for number 1, I would divide everything by 3. So that way when I simplify it, we're left with y equals negative 2/3 x, because 3 can't go into 2, so I just leave it as a fraction, plus 2. And that would be our equation. So let's go ahead and look at another one. So for number 2, again, we're going to start off by adding or subtracting x. Since it's a positive 5x, I'm going to subtract it on both sides. When we do this, we're left with negative 2y equals negative 5x plus 24. Again, step 2 is to divide by y, so I'm going to divide everything by negative 2. When we do this, we're left with y equals positive 5/2 x minus 12, and that would be our final answer. So go ahead and try number 3 on your own. So pause the video, try number 3 on your own. For number 3, we need to add 1x to both sides. You don't have to put the 1, I just like doing it because it helps me out. And we're left with 4y equals x plus 8. And then when I divide by 4, we're left with y equals, again, this is a 1/4, so 1/4 x plus 2. And that would be our final answer. The second thing we're going to be looking at is writing linear equations and inequalities. And for these, it's really all about learning how to translate the different words and what they mean. So if we look at number 1, a student is ordering a flower arrangement for Mother's Day. She can choose any combination of roses and carnations for the flower arrangement, but she does not want to spend more than $30. So if the roses cost $3 each, so roses are 3, and carnations cost 2, we need to write an inequality that represents all of the possible combinations of X roses and Y carnations. So I went ahead and highlighted all of the important information, mainly if it's a number. Most of the time it's important. I'll explain when it's not important here, hopefully in a little bit. But when I see the word more than, this means that we're going to have an inequality. That means my total, so my total cannot go over $30. So the left side has to be less than or equal to $30 or our budget. The next step, because they tell us that X represents roses, so I'm spending $3 on roses, and that's your keyword for plus, to Y for carnations. And that would be our inequality that they could use to find the total. Alright, so for number two, it states that there are 15 plates in a kitchen cabinet. The diameter of each plate is either 7 or 12 inches. The diameter of all 15 plates combined is 140 inches. We need to write a system of equations to find the number of 7-inch plates and the number of 12-inch plates. So I have two different types of plates. We have 7 inches and 12 inches. And I know the total amount of plates. So X represents 7 and Y represents 12. And I know that there are 15 total. So that would be our first equation. Again, this is a system, so we'll have two equations. So now what we're going to be doing is looking at the number of inches. And I know that my second total is 140. And I know that X represents 7 inches and Y represents 12 inches. And that would be my system of equations based on the parameters of this statement. Alright, so number 3, we have a system of equations is graphed on the grid below. Write the system of each equation below. So for this one, again, we have two lines. We have line A and line B. And what we're going to have to do here is we're going to create a table for both, plug them into StatEdit, and get our two equations. So let's start with line A. And I'm just going to draw a t-table off to the left and kind of organize my points. So for line A, I have points -1, 3, and 1, +5. And again, we're going to be using StatEdit. So I click Stat and then Edit. To clear all of this out, I can highlight my title, clear enter, clear enter. That's just a fast and easy way to make sure that you don't delete the columns. So -1, 1, and then I have 3 and 5. Since this is a line, we're going to press Stat Calc number 4. So we want to use linreg, enter 5 times. And our first equation, so our equation for line A is y equals 1x plus 4. And that's our first equation. So I'm going to do the same thing for line B. For line B, I have -4, 4, and -1, -2. And I'll plug both of these back into StatEdit. So -4, -1. And and then 4, negative 2. Make sure that those points match what we have written on the table, which they do. Stat, calc, number 4, enter 5 times. So our second equation is going to be y equals negative 2x minus 4. And that would be our second equation. So we're essentially going to be doing the same thing for number 4, where we have to write 2 equations that represent the tables given to us. Alright, so since this is already in a table format, I'm just going to go straight to Stat Edit and type them in. So our first table, we have negative negative 9. I don't know what's going on. Okay, so negative 9, negative 3, negative 2, and then 0, 10, and 33. Again, we're just going to double check and make sure that those are correct, and I misread. That 10 should be an 18. So again, this is a line, so stat calc number 4, enter 5 times. And what we're going to be doing is just rounding to the second decimal place. So for line Q, y equals 4.12x plus 36.21. So that would be our first equation. And then we'll go back and do the same thing for line V. Stat, edit, clear, enter, clear, enter. I have negative 4, 0, and 10. Then 10, 8, and 3. Stat, calc, number 4, enter 5 times. So our equation for line V is y equals negative 0.5x plus 8. And that would be our final 2 equations. So if you need to pause the video at any moment, but for now I'm going to be moving to the next page. So for page 2, what we're going to be talking about is solving systems of equations. We kind of talked about how to write them, but now we need to solve them and find their solutions. So for systems of equations, we need to remember that their solution is going to be that intersection point. What is that specific ordered pair that they both share? So in order to do this, the easiest way is going to be to graph it, but both equations need to be in slope-intercept form, which we discussed at the beginning of this video. So for number 1, I see that one of my equations is already solved for y, but the second one is not. So we have to go ahead and solve. We're going to start by subtracting 3x on both sides, and we get 15y equals negative 3x minus 6. Then we divide by 15 on both sides. This will simplify to y equals negative 1/5 x minus 2/5. So now I can graph this equation and the top equation. And by doing that, we're going to go to our graph, y equals, and my first equation is 2x plus 4. The second one is, so alpha y equals, enter, negative 1 over 5 x minus 2 over 5. So we're going to be graphing both of these equations. And it looks like right here is my intersection point. To find that exact point, even though we can kind of see what it is, I'm going to press second, trace number 5, because I want that intersection point. And we're going to press enter 3 times. And the solution for this set of lines is negative 2, 0. And that would be our solution. So for number 2, when we were already given a graph, we just have to find that intersection point, which is 2, 0. So let's go ahead and take a look at the number 3. And for number 3, neither of these equations are in the form of y equals. So for the first one, it's pretty easy. We just have to subtract 2x on both sides. And then for the second one, I have to divide everything by negative 3. So for our second equation, we get y equals negative 2/3 x minus 4. And let's go ahead and type both of these equations in. So again, the first one is y equals negative 4 minus 2x. And the second one is negative 2 over 3x minus 4. So when we graph this, second, trace, number 5, enter 3 times. And our intersection point or solution for this set of equations is 0, negative 4, or letter A. So for the last thing that we're going to be covering today, we're going to be talking about solving systems of inequalities, which is very similar to solving systems of equations. We just have one slight difference, and that is the inequality symbol. So remember that if it is less than or greater than, it is a dotted line. If it is equal to, so it's got the little slash underneath, then it's a solid line. If it is less than or less than equal to, we shade below. Greater than or greater than equal to, we shade above. So let's take a look at number 1. So we're given a graph, or we're given an equation, and we have to find the matching graph. So whenever I see an inequality, the first thing that I recommend doing is seeing what type of line and what type of shading you're going to have. So for this inequality symbol, it's greater than, so we shade above, and it has an equal to slash underneath it, so it is a solid line. So because it's solid, I can automatically get rid of this one and this one, so I can get rid of the first and the last. Then when it comes to the two middle ones, the only one that's shaded above is the second one. So that would be our correct graph. Let's look at number 2. So number 2, we're given the equation and we have to see which ordered pair is part of the solution. And any solution for an inequality is going to be in that shaded region. So let's go ahead and graph this line. Another thing is that, so our inequality is greater than, so it's above, and solid, because it's a solid line. Any point on a solid line is a solution. So let's go ahead and graph it. So we have alpha y equals, enter 1 over 3 x plus 4. And the calculator that you have, you can always change this shading in front of the y equals. So we know that it's shaded above, so I can come over here and for my line, because that's what we want to change, I can get it to where it is shaded above. So I can click OK and graph it, and it'll kind of show you how the line should look and where it should be shaded. So I'm going to look at all of those points to see which one is in that shaded region. So -6, 1, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 1. That's about right here, and it's not in the shaded area. That's not a solution. -1, 6, bingo, is in the shaded area. So B would be the correct answer. And that's all I have for today. If you have any questions, just go ahead and ask your teacher, and I hope to see you in the next one.